It started a long time ago, in 1896 to be exact. The early motorists, newly freed from obsolete laws intended to apply to locomotives, organized a run to Brighton by way of celebration. The idea was revived, and finally the Veteran Car Club was formed in 1930 to look after the interests of all veteran car owners. In addition, the Vintage Sports Car Club, formed to keep alive the traditions of those golden years of the 20s, is very much a part of the Scottish motoring scene today, as is the Vintage Motorcycle Club. Our rally today is for both veteran and vintage classes of vehicle. The mothers and grandmothers of today's sleek saloons, these grand old girls of the road, are emphatically not old crocs as some term them. Their condition is of a standard high enough to make many owners of 1958 and 59 models blush. One of the more interesting cars in the rally is the 1908 Stanley steam car, entered by Mr. W.H. Hunter of Edinburgh. This car is driven by a twin-cylinder engine coupled directly to the rear wheels without using a clutch or gears, and requires 300 pounds of steam pressure to make it go. From Inverness, Mr. J.G. Lumsden brought his 1905 Rover. This model, perfectly maintained in its original condition, is an example of the 100-pound car with which the famous old Rover Company graduated from motorcycles to four-wheelers early in the present century. Its single-cylinder engine pulls in high gear with ease. Mr. H.S. Cleland of Edinburgh was unfortunate with his 1901 Renault, which had a punctured tyre. Up to the time when the first car set off for Aberdeen, Mr. Cleland was still working on it. Fortunately, he had another entry, a 1908 8-horsepower Renault driven by Mr. Lindsay Telfer. In last year's Kildrummy rally, this car, known affectionately as the Bug, won the Concours d'Elegance, and Mr. Cleland has high hopes of repeating this performance. He surely stands an excellent chance in view of the loving care which is lavished on the car. The success of any rally depends upon its officials, and here we see the organizing secretary, Mr. Frank Connon, and three of the stewards, Dr. Troop, Mr. Esselmont, and Mr. Potts. One of the hills between Kildrummy and Mossett tests the stamina of the less agile cars, some of them having to make full use of their gearboxes to make the grade. One of the snags of being a passenger in a Stanley steamer is the amount of effort required to keep up the flow of steam, and on this hill Mrs. Hunter proves that she is equal to the task. The 1907 Rolls seems to have a full load aboard. At the taller Mossett, the cars turn right and head towards the Bridge of Arford. The crews are obviously enjoying the run in the warm June sunshine. The steamer, unlike the others, is in no danger of overheating. A fine open stretch of flat road allows the cars to make up for lost time on the hills. Mr. J.G. Lumsden, a consulting engineer from Inverness, riding an 1899 Beeston tricycle, had to start from Kildrummy a quarter of an hour before anyone else. His progress towards Aberdeen was slowed up by having to stop for oil every 10 miles. Maximum speed for the journey was 15 miles per hour, and he took 3 hours to cover the 46 miles. The cavalcade of cars, having wound its way through the beautiful Donside scenery, is now within sight of its goal. Fortunately, there have been no major breakdowns en route. It appears that Mr. Cleland has not been able to cure his puncture trouble. He will probably renew his efforts when he reaches Aberdeen. A huge crowd has gathered in the Aberdeen promenade to welcome the cars as they approach the special enclosure where the concours d'élégance will be judged. Despite the efforts of the police, the public throng the enclosure, and the judges have some difficulty in getting near the cars. Crews are hard at work renewing the immaculate appearance of their cars, and poor Mr. Cleland still struggles on. Perseverance pays, and success at last for Mr. Cleland. Mr. J.W. Whitley, who comes from Keighley, Yorkshire, like so many other veteran car enthusiasts, bought his car off a scrap heap. It began life as an elegant tourer, was later converted into a hearse, and then a breakdown truck. He has been remarkably successful in restoring some of its former glory. By late afternoon, the heat is intense, and the stewards take advantage of a lull in their duties to enjoy a well-earned rest. The judging completed, the vehicles line up to go in procession to the beach ballroom, where their crews were entertained to a civic reception by Lord Provost Stephen, who presented the awards. Mr. Cleland's 1908 Renault, driven by Mr. Telford, was first in the veteran class. The vintage motorcycle class was won by Mr. Wilson of Newmarket with his excellently restored 1923 BSA, which had cost him 20 shillings as scrap a month previously. A beautiful example of a Model T Ford lorry won the commercial vehicle class for Mr. J.G. Barrack of Aberdeen. The only kilted competitor was Mr. B. Davidson of Elgin, who won the vintage car class with his 1929 9-horsepower Humber saloon. The Lumsden family of Inverness had a most successful day. Mr. Lumsden winning the award for the most meritorious performance on his Beeston tricycle, Mrs. Lumsden gaining second place in the veteran car class with her 1905 Rover.